In this brief time that we have, we want to talk about, the title of this message is Friends and Unfriends. Today we're going to talk about the people that surround our lives, our friends and our unfriends. Anybody meet a few of those? So with today's social media craze, we've actually created words that are now an irrevocable part of our culture. And one is the word unfriend. I'm not into this stuff, but how many of you ever unfriended someone? You're thinking about it today? Yeah. Or maybe you've unfollowed someone on Instagram. Or maybe unsubscribed. Now this I've done. Unsubscribed to the volume of emails and whatever else comes your way people send you. Or maybe you did a thumbs up or thumbs down on an artist or some music or something like that. Well, if you've done any of those things, you're the hero of today's message. Because we want to talk about friends and unfriends. If you think about it, we sometimes friend those that we should have unfriended and vice versa. Because we find out some things the hard way as time goes on. But Proverbs 13 and verse 20 says, he, obviously, or she, the person that walks with wise people will themselves become wise. But the companion of fools will be destroyed. Other translations put it this way, but the companions of fools will suffer great harm, suffer loss, and pay a price. Also in Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 and 25, it says this, do not make friends. This is an example of walking with an unwise person. It says, do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with a person that's easily angered, or you may learn his ways and set a snare for your own soul. Can you see what's being spoken of in both of those verses that I've already referenced this morning is that who we hang around with will have a profound impact on our lives. And so we better make sure that we're choosing friends wisely along the way. Right. Now some of you may be saying, well, praise God, Pastor, you just described my husband. Maybe I just heard a word from God. No, you didn't. No, if this is a spouse or a family member, you're joined at the hip. You sign on the dotted line. But in general, as a rule of choice, when we get to choose, if you spend time with people who have integrity, people that have a positive attitude, right? People that are honest, people that are trustworthy. And as Christians, we should always want to associate with people that are passionate for Jesus and uncompromised in that walk. You can meet a lot of people that will check a box on a survey form, I'm a Christian. Well, what kind of Christian are you? That's right. So I promise you this, at the end of the day, Jesus is going to sort that out with you.
Amen.
And it may not be pretty, but it really counts. So it's important that if the Bible says if you name the name of Christ and depart from worldly behavior. Depart from sinful behavior.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're perfect, but you're departing from that way and you're pursuing the Lord. With those who call upon him from a pure heart, the Bible says in 2 Timothy 2. So, as a general rule, we get to choose who we spend time with. You may not choose who's in your family. You may not choose who you go to school with, who your children go to school with. You may not choose, in fact, who is your child's teacher for any given season of time. You may not choose who you have to work with. And that can be a real difficult thing sometimes. But you get to choose your attitudes. You get to choose your responses and your reactions. And when you have free time, you certainly get to choose how you will spend that time and with whom it will be spent. Because the Lord wants you to know that who you choose to spend time with and exactly how that time is spent will have an impact on you, because the characteristics of the people that you spend time with will rub off on you. Amen. And you can only pray that you rub off on them. Amen. But if you spend time, when you have a choice and you choose to spend time with grumblers or gossipers or backbiters, moaners, whiners, complainers, cynics, critics, people with a critical spirit. No matter what's being presented, they always find what's wrong with it. And yet they've never led anything in their life. But they're quick to point out fingers at those who are leading.
That's right.
If you spend time with people that are mediocre Christians, people that hold grudges, people that are compromisers, it won't be long before that bleeds off on you. So it's very important, because the characteristics of those with whom we associate, whether good or bad, can become parts of us if we're not careful. So, I remember many, many years ago, I had done a great deal of prison ministry, all the way from youth prison all the way up to maximum security units. I know many of you have probably as well, but I run the whole circuit, as well as speaking at numerous teen challenge centers, youth challenge centers, and New Life for Youth in Virginia, which is yet another program independent of Teen Challenge. And it's amazing that many times in dialogue with people that were in the programs, or either that or incarcerated in some institution or not, whether they're very young or even old-timers, I would ask this question routinely because I wanted to understand where they were coming from. And I wanted to kind of store this material in my own personal database for future reference. And I would ask them, I would say to them, well, you seem like a really good guy. Because obviously I was in there doing a Bible study. I was in there speaking to them, and they were in a bad situation. But they were in my meeting because they wanted to be. And so I would ask them, well, you seem like a really good guy. If you had to give me an answer, what would you say was the number one thing that caused you to get here? More often than not, in fact, I would say the number one answer that I would receive would be, I started hanging around with the wrong people, even though I knew better. In fact, they heard sermons just like this and did it anyway.
Bad company makes for bad character.
And I would sit there amazed, and then that would give us an opportunity to go further in our discussion. And I would really begin to pick apart the reason why they chose the way they chose. And in many cases, they actually grew up in church and still said, well, I just got sick of doing that church thing and I thought I knew better than God. How many of you know that's never a good bargain? Because if people knew better than God, this world wouldn't be as messed up as it is. The Bible says there are many ways that seem right unto a person, but they don't realize that the end of that pathway is the way of death.
Destruction.
There's only one way that works, His way. There's only one way that will bear the ultimate fruit, not only of peace and joy and blessing, but ultimate internal contentment. And that's doing things His way. Because if money could do the answer, Hollywood wouldn't be as messed up as it is. If fame and fortune were the answer, then they wouldn't be as messed up. If power is the answer, then Washington wouldn't be as messed up as it is. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 33, don't be misled, the Apostle Paul said. Bad company corrupts good character. Bad company corrupts good character. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say good character will pull bad company up. What he says is bad company will corrupt good character every time. Now you might say, well then, how does a bad person ever get a good example? Well, they should be able to watch someone's life who's living it right and has good character and learn from that, and then in dialogue and question, well, you understand that the person with bad character has to be seeking. Because many times people with a bad attitude choose that attitude because they like to live with a chip on their shoulder. It makes them feel tough.
Yeah.
I'm a bad dude. But that bad attitude only gets them in bad places. And then the people that got them there are nowhere to be found. So being selective about the friends that we choose is very important. It's vital. Because God has appointed certain people to be a part of our life. And in fact, some people are a part of our life to alter alter our future from what it was to what God wants it to be. They are divinely planted in our lives. You know what? Like the set stones in the Old Testament, the priests used to wear like a vest. It was called an ephod. And in that ephod, there was one stone. There were 12 stones actually set in there. And those stones were represented, one from each tribe of Israel. And when the priest would seek the Lord on certain matters, he would actually get the answer from the vest and how the stones would react. Anyhow, the point of the matter is this. Those stones didn't get in that vest because someone said, well, I like that color. You see, those were set stones. Set by someone appointed by God to set them. And that's how some people are in our lives. They're set stones that are they're planted by God to make a difference in our lives.
Amen. That's right.
You just can't pick set stones, God sets them. If we refuse to separate from the wrong crowds, then you will not only get messed up, but you will doubly lose, because then the space that's set in your life for the people that God wanted to get there is now, there's no room at the end. It's like being with the wrong person in a relationship. Not only do you get messed up by being with them, but it actually excludes the right person. Associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation. For 'tis better to be alone than to be in bad company. Just like in a love relationship, it's better to be alone than to be with the wrong person. You're in a world of hurt then. Daniel, in the book of Daniel, chapter 6, you know what the Bible says there? It says, Daniel was preferred above all the rulers and princes in Babylon. Why? Because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king had ideas to set him over the whole realm. Have you ever wondered why Daniel had such an excellent spirit? I believe, number one, because it was a choice on his part. But number two, look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Look at the guys he hung out with. These were the same guys who told King Nebuchadnezzar, do to us whatever you want. We will not bow down and worship an idolic image. See, Daniel hung out with the right kind of guys. What they purposed in their heart not to defile themselves with is the same thing Daniel, the same material out of which Daniel was built. So, you want to look at Daniel? Look at the friends he hung out with. You want to look at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Who would they hang out with? No one else but Daniel. That's what we want, guys. All four came from Jerusalem into Babylonian captivity. And Daniel's friends had the same inner fortitude and refusal to compromise as he did. And I believe that the character and the integrity that his friends had seeped into Daniel's life. And who Daniel really was seeped into the life of his friends. Number four, fourth rule about friendship is choose friends around whom you can be yourself. Choose friends around whom you can be yourself. Proverbs 18 and verse 24 says, some friendships do not last, but some friends are even more loyal than brothers. Proverbs 18 and 24. We've got to choose friends around whom we can be ourselves. That's the beauty of friendship. You can kind of just let your hair down and be yourself, and someone will love you despite our flaws and foibles. Aristotle said this, what is a friend? Question. A single soul in two bodies. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, it is one of the blessings of old friends that you can afford to be stupid with them and they still love you. And there's a lot of stupidity. There's a lot. So we're talking about safe people. People around whom you feel safe, correct? Isn't that the beauty of friendship? Safe people is a person who accepts me as I am. This kind of person loves me no matter how I am being or what I do at the time. A safe person is a person whose influence develops my ability to love and to be responsible. A good person for me is one who creates love and good works within me and inspires that. It's someone who gives me an opportunity to grow without judging. It's someone who increases my capacity to love within me because of how they are. It's someone who allows me to be on the outside what I am on the inside. And it's someone who allows me to become the me that God intended. Isn't that good? And number 5, we're done. The 5th rule of friendship and choosing friends is this: realize that there will be seasons of change regarding your friendships. Here's a thought that I want you to try and wrap your head around. Sometimes you simply outgrow friendships. Wow, it got quiet. We're outside. No. Sometimes you simply outgrow certain friendships. Didn't mean it was bad. It means that you took it as far as you could take it, and now your differences are outweighing the places where you connect. Maybe your priorities have now changed in such a way that your friends' priorities no longer line up with yours. Hello? It's like this. If you're a Christian this morning, you're going to understand this statement. You're probably going to feel connected with someone spiritually who's filled with the Holy Spirit a lot more than you're going to be connected with someone who's not filled with the Holy Spirit. Man, I can't believe some of you are even questioning that. So the point is this. If you are passionate for Jesus and filled with the Spirit, don't think it a strange thing where you even feel closer to some church people than you do your natural family members. If they're not Christians. Just a thought. Why would that be? Because you have the Holy Spirit, so your church friends, but even some of your natural family members, you love them and you have a history with them. You know what? Thank God for them. But if they're not serving the Lord, your conversation can only go so far and then it falls off the table. And you'll find yourself more talking about your common past than anything in the present or the future. Because they're going here and you're going there. Their priorities are about this world and yours are about the kingdom of God. Don't think it's strange. All right, so let's take it away from a family context. And let's say you grew up with friends. I grew up with many childhood friends. And then our friendships were like this, as close, I mean, they're thick as thieves. But then I came to Jesus. A lot of them did. So guess what? Now when I see them, I love them, we hug each other, we reminisce about the past. And that's about it. And that's okay. I love the reminiscing about the past. I love doing that. But I'm more about the future than I am the past. You understand? That spiritually, listen, we simply outgrew our friendship. Why? Because now my priorities are spiritual and theirs are natural. I still love them, but we can't build together because how can two walk together unless they be agreed? And that word agreed in the Hebrew means this. How can two walk together unless they know it's a divine appointment? That's what that word agreed really means in the Hebrew. So the same God that opens doors is the same God that closes doors. And here's the way I look at it. Not so much with people, but a lot of times with situations and that involves people. When you're building a building, many times what you need to do outside work on the building is what we call scaffolding. You know what scaffolding is? Yeah. Staging scaffolding. So you need the scaffolding to do what? To complete the outside of the building. But once the building is done, you put the scaffolding away. You say, well, I'm really into my scaffolding. I think I'm going to build this beautiful building and I'm going to leave the scaffolding up as a reminder. Do you do that? No. Well, maybe if you're foolish, you do. I guess if you paid for the building, knock yourself out. But typically you don't want to do that. You want to show the beauty of your building because you invest money in the building, not the scaffolding. The scaffolding served a purpose for a season. and now it's time to put it away. And unfortunately, sometimes that's the way it is with people in our lives. Some people come and they go. Some may stay for years and then they go. But some are set in stones. And only God gets to choose that. Listen, I am convinced that some people get stuck living beneath their God-given potential because of their inability to let go of certain things from the past. John chapter 15, verses 1 through 5, Jesus said, I am the true vine. My Father is the vine dresser, gardener. He cuts off, listen, he cuts off every branch in me that no longer bears fruit, while every branch in me that does bear fruit, he prunes it back so that it will be even more fruitful. He said, abide in me and I will abide in you. No branch can bear fruit in and of itself. It must remain in the vine. And so forth and so on. But understand, Jesus said some branches are going to get cut off that no longer bear fruit. And even the ones that do will go through changes. Right? They'll go through rough patches. Because sometimes when you have disagreements along the way in your friendship, and you have to work through forgiveness, and you have to work through differences, it actually makes your friendship stronger on the back end of that. Because you know, listen, because you know that your roots are deep enough in each other and in the Lord to survive certain storms. Proverbs 24 and verse 10 says, if you fail in the day of adversity, your strength was small indeed. That who you really are, what you really have, whether it's in yourself or relationally, can only be accurately tested in difficult times, not in good times. In good times, everybody thinks they're a winner. But you really find out if you have what it takes when tough times. So let the Lord prune some relationship. We actually have pastoral friends. Friends that are in ministry. Ministry as long as we've been in ministry. We stopped hanging around with them years ago. Because even in ministry, their priorities are here and ours are here. What they do in ministry is not something we want to do. What they allow to go on in their ministry is not something we would ever allow to go on in our ministry. They're all right with carnality, we're not. They're all right with preaching level 2 messages and telling people God is love and stroking the flesh and it'll be all right. And we just believe that the Bible challenges the flesh, not strokes it.
That's right.
And the greatest problem a person will ever have will be the flesh, not the devil. So as a minister, while I'm going to preach messages that really just stroke the flesh. So, what do? Number 1, ask for God's wisdom. Ask for God's wisdom in choosing friends, because friends don't get to be friends by default. Jesus chose the 12. We get to choose in some contexts. Choose wisely. Ask for God's wisdom. Number 2, become the friend that you'd like to have. Become the friend that you'd like to have. If you're a stiff, then don't expect God to give you a good friend. I'm just telling you the truth. If you could fit your passion for Jesus in a thimble, then someone who's really fired up for the Lord doesn't spend much time around you. Not going to happen. I wouldn't. I have to do it as a man of God, a minister, and a pastor. But when I get to choose, off the clock. Give me someone sold out for Jesus. Give me someone so fired up that I got to pull the reins back a little bit, rather than having to raise the dead every week. If you want to be surrounded by good friends, then it has to begin with you, because they'll be attracted to people of the same spirit. Be a person of honor, integrity, faithfulness, loyal, good friend material. And God will send people to you because they will resonate. They'll see through you. Or into you, as it were. You want friends that are encouraging and helpful? Be that for someone else. You want friends that love their wives and family, or husband and family? Then be that kind of person. Right? Ask for God's wisdom. Be the friend you'd like to have. Be patient. Let the Lord bring people. Say, well, I don't have many friends. That's all right. Be patient. Don't go fishing in the Hudson River and then wonder why you got a grown pool. Relationships or friendships. Careful of those old boots. Don't forget, in Hudson you can walk on water and don't need a miracle. Having one true friend is better than a whole bunch of phonies with heartaches. Proverbs 17 and verse 1 tells us, it's better to have a bite of dry bread eaten in peace than a family feast filled with hassles and strife. And number 4, believe that God will supply all that is lacking in us and for us. 2 Chronicles 16 and verse 9. For the eyes of the Lord go to and fro throughout the whole earth, that he may strongly support, show himself strong on those whose hearts are sold out to him. Let your request be made known unto God, and he will answer them. Right? Keep your standards high in the Lord, but don't be puffed up about it. And the Lord will honor that.